Hi everyone, Alan here. This is Discovering Buddhism, a course presented by Vajrayana Institute, middle level course for anyone new, and it runs for about 12 months, and there are 12 different subjects. Each subject runs for 4 weeks, and this subject we're up to now is called All About Karma, and this is the third class, all about karma. One more next week. So we'll, as usual, I've put my name and email address on the chat column there. So anyone who's watching for the first time and might want to join the class regularly, just send me an email and I'll send you the notes and put you on the mailing list to get notes every week. All right, so let's begin, as we normally do, by doing 5 minutes of mindfulness of the breath. This is a practice that's just good for calming the mind, and it's not just common to Buddhism, but it's used in other different traditions as well, Hinduism. In fact, it was around long before Buddhism, mindfulness practices. So the main thing is to be comfortable physically, sitting down or lying down. The back should be straight. And what we're focusing on is the movement of the breath in the body. And so it's possible to focus at the nostrils, where you can feel the cool air entering the body and the warm air leaving the body. You can focus at the abdomen, lower down, where it's rising, the movement of the body rising and falling. Or you can focus on the whole body, the movement of the whole body, which is the widest area of focus. So whatever's most comfortable. And once we sort of find the breath, the place where it's comfortable to watch the breath, we just sit back and observe the breath. It sounds so simple, but if you're like me, after a few seconds even, the mind starts to wander. So that's our focus, our object is the breath, but part of the mind is like observing what's going on. It's like it's kind of a spy watching the performance. Are we still on the breath or have we wandered off? So that's quality control. So we just check every now and again, are we on the breath or have we wandered off into daydreaming, wandering mind, thinking about something happened today, what we're going to do later. So that's very common to have that wandering mind. So we just notice it. And when we notice that we've actually lost the breath, we just let go. We feel that we're lucky that we saw that. You can be thankful that you actually spotted it, because sometimes it takes a long time to realize that you've actually wandered off into another world. And then you gently let go of that wandering thought and patiently come back to the breath. And during the 5 minutes, or even during 1 minute, you might be doing that many times, just patiently bringing the attention back to the breath. Okay, let's get comfortable and we'll do the mindfulness practice. Okay, so now we just have a sense of bringing our attention from the outside world, outside the busy day we've just had, into the inner world of our body, what's happening in the body, and also what's happening in our mind. It's also good just to spend a moment appreciating incredible good fortune we have to be able to come together here and do some practice, study the incredible Buddha's teachings. And we'll also just check our motivation for doing this practice and this study. It's not just for our own benefit, it's also for the benefit of others. And the Mahayana motivation, Mahayana Buddhist motivation, is that we're actually doing it for the benefit of all living beings, all sentient beings. That makes the practice more powerful. So now we just check our body. The spine is straight, shoulders relaxed. Feel the weight of the body on the chair or the floor. Just checking that it's evenly balanced, comfortable. Eyes can be closed or just gently open, gazing ahead. And then we gradually bring our attention to the movement of the breath in the body. At the beginning, we can focus mainly on the out-breath. And with each out-breath, we can imagine we're letting go, physically letting go of all the busyness in the mind, any distractions, obstacles to our practice. Relaxing more deeply with each out-breath. Now gradually just giving all our attention to the breath, the gentle rhythm of the breath. Staying with each in-breath and with each out-breath, one breath at a time. And remember to every now and again check where we are. Are we still on the breath or have we wandered off? And if we've wandered, just relax, just a thought, and gently let go of that thought and patiently bring your attention back to the breath. Just relax. So hopefully you got notes for today's class, which I think I sent out yesterday. And so basically we're covering the topic of purification of karma today. But we'll also do those questions. Questions from last week. There's just usually 3 questions that just cover what we did last week, just to refresh where we are. Don't feel that they're exam questions or anything. Just answer them if you've got time. So remember, next week I'll be giving you the set questions and answers for the module, which are provided by the course writers, Discovering Buddhism, people who put the course together. And I'm doing that because it's quite difficult to do question and answers with YouTube. Can't really do it. So it's good to have. Remember, the answers that are given are not just perfect answers. There's usually quite a few different approaches you can take to these questions. Today's the first questions are pretty standard. The first one is, what are the 10 non-virtues? This is just to jog your memory. So remember, with karma, because everything that we do, what we say, and what we think, or actions of body, speech, and mind, all leave an imprint on our minds, leave an impression. And whatever impression is there, whether it's a positive impression or a negative impression, will have an effect on our situation later on. It could be something that affects us. If it's a positive action, some very kind action we've done to somebody, it might have a positive, it will certainly have a positive outcome, either in this life or next life, future life. And if it's a negative action, one that harms self and others, then there'll be a negative action later. So how to watch our actions, basically the whole of the rest of the Lam-Rim course, or what all the Buddha's teachings, apart from understanding karma, are how to watch our karma, how to create positive actions and to overcome our negativities and to purify our minds to such an extent, a limitless extent, so that we actually become enlightened beings, liberated from all suffering and able to be of maximum benefit to other beings. So the 10 non-virtues are just like a basic set of instructions. It reminds me a little bit of the 10 Commandments in Christianity. It's not the be or an end of all that, just follow the 10 non-virtues, or avoid the 10 non-virtues and you'll go to heaven. It's not quite as simple as that, but it's just a elementary set of do's and don'ts. And the body, the do's and don'ts cover what we do, our body action, what we say, and what we think. So the 3 non-virtues of body are killing other sentient beings, stealing, and sexual misconduct. And the 3 non-virtues of speech are lying, slander, harsh words, and gossiping. And the 3 non-virtues of mind are jealousy, sometimes called covetousness. There's all different words for the same thing. Malice, thinking bad, wishing other beings bad outcomes, bad thoughts, and wrong views, ignorance, just having a wrong, ignorant view, so that not understanding. Say, for instance, just saying that karma is a complete waste of time and it's all wrong. So wrong views is these are just hindrances, negatives, the 10 non-virtues that we should try as much as possible to avoid. Because we're not enlightened beings, we're not going to be able to be pure all the time. And by avoiding the 10 non-virtues, we actually consciously do that. We're actually, for example, by avoiding killing, we actually adopt the virtue of protecting life, saving life. So by avoiding the 10 non-virtues, we're actually creating the virtues that are the opposite action of the non-virtue is a virtue. So just first topic tonight, we're going to look at how this very simplistic approach of just looking at the 10 virtues and non-virtues can be changed. There's a more refined approach of looking how the weight of karmic actions can be changed and the different factors that come into play. Okay, so that's the slightly too long answer for the first question. The next one, what are the 4 elements that are needed to complete a negative action? So this is just looking at, it's kind of quite a formal approach to completely complete a negative action. What do you need? So it will depend on which negative action, which of those non-virtues we're looking at. First of all, we're looking at we need a basis. The 4 are having a basis, an object of the action. Second one is having an intention. Second one is performing the action, and the 4th one is completing the action. So taking the simple example of killing a sentient being, you need, the basis is, it's like talking about what the ingredients you need. You've got to have another sentient being to be killed. That's the basis, the object of the action. Second one, the intention. You have to have the intention to actually end the life of that being. So, it could be out shooting foxes or whatever, kangaroos. So that also implied in the intention is said to be the strongest and most important ingredient to complete a negative action. And so it's you need to actually recognize that there is a sentient being there you're going to kill. You could be driven, you'll be driven by thinking it's good or good thing to kill that sentient being, or it could be driven out of anger. A delusion is needed. There will be a delusion there because you'd have to be deluded to want to kill another sentient being. And then have the intention. Third one is you actually do the action, the physical act. So you can, if you're shooting an arrow, you fire the arrow. And then the last one is you're successful. The arrow goes into the sentient being and it is killed. And then complete the action is you feel satisfied that you've completed your mission, which was to kill a sentient being. So if you're looking at the opposite of negative action, then a positive action would be to save the life of a sentient being without going through it painstakingly. You save the life of a sentient being, you intend to make sure that being is protected from harm, and you do take action to do that, and you can feel some rejoicing that you've actually been able to save that sentient being from the suffering of being killed, etc. So that's the second question. The third one is just what are the 3 types of karmic cause and 3 types of karmic results. So this is just most attention is given to the actual results. Just quickly, the karmic causes. There's a substantial cause, there's a cooperative cause, and there's a ripening cause. Probably the most important one is the ripening cause. It's the cause that what will cause that person to be reborn in a certain situation. So let's look at the 3 karmic results. First one is the ripening result. So the result of a cause, ripening result, is where that sentient being is going to be reborn. Okay, so if we're thinking of ourselves, where will we be reborn in the next life? So if we found ourselves in this life being reborn in a human body which is extremely rare and fortunate, the best possible place we could be reborn if we're not enlightened beings, because as a human, with a human brain, we can do the practices, apply the Buddhist teachings, which we've discovered and found, as much as possible, follow the Buddhist teachings, just like the Buddha did, like the Buddha for years, many lifetimes, had built up the what we call the merit to be born a human being, and then he practiced and became enlightened in one lifetime. So the ripening result is about where we're going to be, also called throwing karma, which is probably, I think, for me, more graphic and more easy to remember, where you're going to be thrown from the causes of this life into the next life. And we looked last week at how at the point of dying, when we're just about to leave this life, the state of mind then is very important as far as throwing karma, where you're going to be reborn. So a calm state of mind, unattached, contented, at the time of death will have the effect of throwing. The ripening result will be positive, auspicious rebirth. Whereas a disturbed state of mind at the point of death will possibly lead to an unfavorable rebirth. So there's the ripening result, throwing karma. Then there's the experiencing the result similar to the cause. So that means that the karma to receive the result of what we've done in previous life. So, for instance, if we have made the mistake of doing a lot of killing in this life, in the next life we're going to, or when that karma ripens, may not be next life, it might be another life, we're going to be at the receiving end. We're going to have a short life, we'll be reborn, possibly in a dangerous place, so that maybe have very poor health and be subject to being killed. That's one aspect, receiving the result that's similar to the cause. And then the other aspect of that ripening, that karma, is to develop a pattern. So if we have killed, we develop that habit. So we could end up born wanting to do more killing. Okay, so we can actually see sometimes if there are beings who are by nature very calm and want to protect other people and are very kind, and then there are other humans who might have a tendency to enjoy killing, and have that tendency sometimes can become a mental illness. It would be a mental illness, but can become even more a very serious mental illness. So that's the third ripening result, or the third effect, karmic result. The last one is where the situation you're going to find yourself in as a result of that actions done in previous life. So it's like the environment. For example, if a person has been very generous and been very ethical, led a very pure and careful life, and not harmed others, then they will be likely to be born in a very comfortable place, very peaceful place where they receive no harm. Good example is like a domestic pet. I think I gave this example last week. A domestic pet born in somewhere like Australia, being well looked after. The throwing karma is not so good because they're born as an animal, but the environmental result is that they're born into a place where they've got all the comforts they need, they've got food, they're loved, they're looked after. So that's a mixed resulting karma. Born in an unfavourable body, but actually born in a very favourable environment. So enough of that. That's just rehashing what we covered last week. So today we're going to look at how to purify karma, but just before we get to that, I've got a heading there, the weight of karma. So this is just looking at some comments that His Holiness the Dalai Lama gave in a teaching that is in one of the books on the reading list, Foundations of Buddhist Practice by His Holiness the Dalai Lama, where he's teaching how karmic actions can be influenced by different factors. The first one is frequency. So frequency, losing our temper and becoming angry, is going to actually lay down negative imprints in our mind. Karma will become stronger. And similarly, if we have the habit or frequency of being kind to other beings and always being patient in difficult situations, if we have that very fortunate tendency, then that frequency again perpetuates and becomes a habit. So how often we do something can increase either the negative side of the karma, if it's negative, or positive strength of the karma. Regretting. So this is really this could be regretting a negative thing we've done or positive. If we're looking at regretting a negative thing we've done, this is really essential for purification and will help our purification. So this is one of what they call the 4 opponent powers of purification. So we can actually, by applying other of the powers to purify, regretting can actually help us to expunge and annihilate the effect of previous negative actions. On the other hand, if we make it positive, do something positive, like say donate to a very worthy charity, we donate to our teacher, our Buddhist teacher, or to a cause that is benefiting others, and then later we think, oh, now I've lost all that money and I regret. So the karmic result will be positive still because we've actually done something with a good intention originally, but then regretting it later will reduce the positive power of the karma. Well, we can also then purify, if we notice that we're regretting and regret that we regretted, we can purify that and restore our original good karma. Rejoicing in negative actions, if we're happy to see somebody suffer, if we've said bad words to them or treated them badly, caused harm, and then we're happy. So that will increase the negativity side of it, feeling good about it. Also rejoicing in positive actions, in actions of ourselves and others, is excellent for the mind. It's said to be one of the best and most quickest and easiest ways to accumulate merit. Merit means positive imprints on the mind, like fertilizing the soil before we plant the seed. The rejoicing is one of the 7 limbs of practice, 7 positive actions that can help our merit, our basic mental health, I suppose you'd call it. So strong intention. So if we've got a strong intention to create a negative action, that's going to make it much, much more negative. Intention is really the mainstay of creating karma both positive and negative, having a strong intention to do positive actions for self and for others, to common intention to be compassionate and as much as possible help other beings, will have a very positive effect. Precepts is a way. If precepts is where we go through a certain set of prayers. I'm talking first of all about precepts by non-ordained people, people who are not monks or nuns. It's possible in Tibetan Buddhism for this a practice called taking lay precepts for 24 hours for one day. It's called taking the Vajrayana precepts. So if we want to help purify our mind and accumulate an enormous amount of positive merit virtue, we can take what we call the Vajrayana precepts for 24 hours. So we'll probably cover this in more detail later in other subjects. But if you want to just check more on this one, probably you could have a look at the Lama Yeshe Wisdom Archive. Just put in a search for precepts, how to take precepts, and it will come up. It will tell you how. There'll be a particular part of the website that deals with that. So precepts, making a promise to not do something negative. Now that is so. Lama Yeshe and Lama Zopa both stress that if we do take precepts, then the benefit of abstaining from a negative action is so much more powerful. So much more powerful. So it's a time where we can. So people who become ordained, monks and nuns, they take precepts as at the time of ordination, to do and not do certain things for their whole life. Okay, so celibacy is one of them, Mahayana Buddhism, and sort of not killing, taking the basic precepts of not harming others. And it's because they've taken a vow not to do this, then their actions of abstaining from harming are much more powerful. Acting out of ignorance. So this is people who do things and they don't understand that they're bad. And His Holiness gives the example of children particularly, who out of being immature, unaware, they can actually, the karmic result for people such as children is much less. So remember, these are all advices coming from His Holiness the Dalai Lama. We'll cut next week. We'll look at sort of more borderline things, acting out of ignorance, like thinking that by killing there can be a benefit, and having a very strong motivation. So we're thinking of euthanasia, perhaps mercy killing of animals that are suffering. You can see there are these grey areas where it's not cut and dry, and perhaps we've got a very strong positive motivation, but we might be mistaken as to whether this action benefits that being or not. Renata gives the very vivid example of, in her transcript, in her teaching, say at a road accident, a bystander coming along and wanting to help one of the victims and moves their bodies to try and make them more comfortable, but unknowingly they actually move the spinal is being injured, and they're actually cause some major aggravation of the injury, maybe causing the spine to break or whatever. So a well-meaning person trying to help the situation causes more suffering and damage to the recipient, the person being helped. So that very complex, difficult situation where we've got positive motivation and a negative outcome. So basically, the teachings say that the intention is the more powerful of that. So well-meaning actions, well-inspired actions, even though they may harm others, will have certainly less negative results on the person doing the action than if they didn't have such a. But it's not as if there's no. There still could be some negative karma involved. Thing is to, if we can, the whole purpose of becoming enlightened is to have wisdom. We have, unlimited compassion and wisdom as a Buddha, and we can actually see through our wisdom, our mind that can see a kind of clairvoyance, wisdom understanding all phenomena, what will benefit, whether this action will benefit the being or not. So we need wisdom as well as compassion, the two wings. Mental illness lessens karmic impact. Person's general mental development. So His Holiness is saying here that a person who's lived a perfectly ethical life and then commits some sort of minor infraction, maybe kills an insect or whatever, there'll be less negative impact of that action than a person who's had maybe not such a ethical life and commits a minor action could have a worse effect on that person if it depends on their background, what His Holiness calls general mental development. Okay, so how's the time? Okay, getting along. So let's now go to the purification of destructive karma. So this is the great thing about the teachings on karma. If we learned all the teachings on karma and understood only that this action will lead to that and that action will lead to that, then could be quite depressing, knowing that we've all committed quite a lot of negative action if we can't do something about it. So fortunately, the Buddhist teachings, the Lamrim teachings, have many ways that we can actually purify things that we've done in the past. That is karmic imprints on our mind. And the important thing is we need to actually purify before the karmic imprints that are laying there, latent potential on our mind, before they come to fruition. Because if we've already the karmic imprints has come to fruition, it's too late. If we find ourselves born as a scorpion or whatever, it's too late to purify that karma. So even if we could, but we couldn't if we're an animal anyway. So the thing is, these purification practices are done now that we've got this incredible opportunity as human being, a human brain, and having access to the teachings and teachers. So the idea of purification is recognizing wrong actions that we've done, realizing, having a sense of regret, not guilt, regret, and making a strong determination not to repeat, and at the same time taking action to purify. So let's have a look at the four opponent powers. Just actually said them in different words. The first one is to have regret. The second one is to, actually there's a slightly different order we're going to present. Regret is one. The basis meaning the underlying mental attitude that we have when we're doing a purification practice. The exact remedy, what it is that we're doing, and could be making an offering, could be reciting a mantra, whatever, and then resolve not to do it again. So those four: regret, basis, remedy, and resolve, the four opponent powers. few general comments by His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and also these comments are also in the required readings by Lama Zopa and Lama Yeshe. So purifying our negative karma can be quite difficult, says the Dalai Lama. He says the sad truth is that there is probably more negative imprints on our mind than positive. Destructive actions are easy to acquire, says the Dalai Lama, due to our past habits. We have this sort of momentum. Our habits are basically moving in a negative direction. And so if we're going to try and push back against the tide, it's going to take quite an effort, like turning back the tide. So often this is manifested if we try to do something like go into a retreat. Sometimes that person who's doing the retreat might get sick. There will be certain obstacles that could come up while that person's trying to do something very positive, which is retreating and doing strong sort of meditation practice. So that positive action could give rise to a lot of obstacles as you're pushing against the grain. So that's where purification is important, and strong mindfulness. Sometimes another interesting point is purification can just diminish the power of a negative action. Okay? There still could be some negative effect, but a much less negative effect of what we've done. And the example that is given is, instead of if we've got a short lifespan and the karma to actually die in a car accident or die in a violent situation, and we have purified before that happened, we've done purification practices, then instead of having what we would have normally had, which is a violent death, we might just trip, stub our toe, have a minor illness, get sick for a little while, and so there could be some much less negative, some sort of minor negative outcome than what was originally going to happen to us. So sometimes it's said if we've experienced an illness, one positive way of looking at it is just to think that I'm burning up the negative karma that caused this illness. By having this illness, I'm experiencing the result of some sort of negative action done in the past, and I won't have to experience it again. Once karmic result has been experienced, it's expended. So these are just preliminary comments, just mentioned in the notes. Don't need to follow them now, but if you're looking at them later. One interesting thing His Holiness the Dalai Lama says in the extract of the book that I'm taking this from is the karma of the communists who took over Tibet. Very interesting that those people who were working for the Red Army, or inspired by political Mao Zedong and that period when China invaded Tibet, if they were communist officials, they may have been following the Marxist idea of equality, wanting people to share equally and not have a rich class and a poor class, some equal sharing of riches, of wealth. That's positive. He said that could have a positive effect in their mind. But on the other hand, these Chinese people victimizing, torturing people who come from the rich class, which they did, that's negative. That's a negative action. So they've got this mixture of positive and negative actions. One motivated by wanting to help beings, one motivated by hating the rich class. Interesting. So the four opponent powers, just looking at this, first one is the power of regret. Fairly obvious that the idea of realizing that one has committed, particularly if you look at the 10 non-virtues, we've all probably done some of, apart from murdering other beings, we may not have done that, but we've probably committed some of those or all of those actions in some way. So at the end of the class, we're going to do a meditation on the 10 non-virtues and also the 10 virtues combined together. So just by sort of contemplating the power of those negative actions, we can feel a sense of regret. If we start to understand the effect of karmic action, we can have some sort of fear that there is actually going to be a negative consequence, and that can help us to want to do something about it. Not guilt. Guilt is said to be very harmful in Buddhist psychology. Regret means realizing that we were wrong and wanting to do something about it. And also part of regret would be making a strong determination not to repeat that mistake. So guilt is this feeling that I've done the wrong thing and now I'm a bad person. And, I'll always be a bad person. Everything's coming down, and a feeling of self-judgment, self-condemnation. So that's very harmful according to Buddhist psychology. So the idea is regret, but not guilt. And so part of regret is becoming mindful, going to watch actions of body, speech, and mind, watch what I do. And just to quote Lama Yeshe, he says, the power of regret is we understand the negative repercussions of unwholesome actions so well that the moment we become aware that we've created a negative action, okay, so we can see we're just about to get angry, whatever, we want to purify immediately. Okay, we want to either stop the action or just purify. We've just created a negative action, quick purification. So that's regret. The second opponent power is the power of the basis or object. So this is quite something that takes a bit of understanding. What does that mean, the power of the basis or the object? And what it means is taking refuge and generating compassion at the same time. Okay, so we've committed this wrong action, but we have faith in Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. So if you're going to use Buddhist purification, you need to have some faith in the teachings, the teachers, the Dharma, which is the teaching, the teachers, which is the Buddha, and our gurus, our teachers, and faith in other people who are doing the same thing, Sangha, our spiritual community. So we take refuge in, and we generate compassion, because compassion is realizing that other beings are in the same situation as well. So compassion and taking refuge is really the essence or the power of the basis. Going back to basics, as sometimes this is called. Just to quote His Holiness the Dalai Lama's explanation, he says, just as we accumulate negative karma on the basis of sentient beings and holy objects, like the ground of negative actions is another being. We need another being to kill. We need another being to say bad words or to have malicious thoughts about. So just as when we do negative actions, there is another being involved. So when we do purification, we need to keep them in mind as well. Use them as the basis for purification. And because if you think about it, we can't really become enlightened without other beings. We can't practice patience unless somebody's annoying it. We can't practice compassion unless there's somebody there to feel compassion, loving kindness towards. So sentient beings, this is very powerful from these foreigners. Sentient beings are the cause of our mistakes. Sentient beings are going to help us to purify them. Okay, so number 3 is the power of the remedy. So this is getting down to, we realize that our clothes are dirty and we need to wash them. So we now actually have to take them to the washing machine, put in the soap powder. So this is different ways, different means of purification, things that we can do. So some examples, we just probably won't have time to go through all of them. Reciting holy scriptures, and the Dalai Lama gives the example of the perfection of wisdom, so the Heart Sutra. Heart Sutra you might have come across. It's very common in the Lama. It's the very short sutra, maybe just one page, on wisdom of emptiness. It's about emptiness. So that's a very, very powerful practice, which often, almost all teachings, not all teachings, but many teachings begin with reciting the Heart Sutra. Making offerings to holy beings, or to even to offerings of symbols of holy beings, like an altar where there's an image of the Buddha. Making offerings to our gurus, incredibly powerful. Another one, Vajrayana practice. So Vajrayana practice is where we use a particular prayer, a sadhana, and we use a mantra to recite, quite a long mantra, the Vajrayana mantra, 108 syllables, 100 syllables, and we accompany that with the power of regret and power of resolve as well. So Vajrayana practice, next week I'll actually send you a short sort of a booklet, or it won't send you the whole booklet, but there's a booklet called Becoming Vajrasattva, quite a concise teaching by Lama Yeshe, which explains the Vajrasattva practice. Every now and again, Vajrayana Institute actually holds a weekend retreat doing a Vajrasattva practice, usually led by Venerable Deki, a very senior nun at the centre. Vajrasattva practice, usually at least once a year, there's a Vajrasattva weekend. I think the last couple of years it was online. So that practice is very powerful. Another even more dramatic and powerful practice is a Nungne practice, which is coming up, I think, in July at Vajrayana Institute, where there's it's a 3-day practice where there's this, we say prayer, there's prayers said, prostrations are performed, and there's actually, it's a fasting retreat where for a certain period, maybe 24 hours, there's nothing either eaten or drunk. No eating or drinking for a short period. So it is a very powerful but rather extreme retreat, and it's one that some good to think about whether you've got any physical health problems, whether it's a right one for you. So I've just got a note there. The 11th to the 13th of June at Vajrayana Institute, there is a Vajrasattva practice schedule. We'll just put that in the diary. Making statues, building stupas is said to be extremely powerful purification practice. Doing prostrations, very common purification practice, to the 35 Buddhas. Again, this is something we have from time to time. There's quite a lot of teachings available on doing prostration, and particularly remember that on the Vajrayana Institute website, VI website, there's something on the menu that at the top of the website, resources, I think it's on the right-hand side, the drop-down menu, and there's a whole sort of list of teachings there, and there's some really quite a lot of teachings on prostrations, particularly by Geshe Samton, who regularly gives teachings on the power of how to do prostrations as a purification practice. And prostrations combined with reciting the names of the 35 Buddhas. So just sort of touching on these, I can't really go into too much detail due to time restraints. I've mentioned the 8 Mahayana precepts. Meditating on emptiness is another very powerful purification practice, the wisdom of emptiness. Last one, the last fourth power of the opponent power for purification is this power of resolve not to repeat the action again, not to engage. So to help, knowing that we are fallible and we can make a resolve, I'm never going to lie again, or do some other gossip or whatever, get angry. It's said to be wise to actually limit the time, say for at least the next 24 hours, I will not get angry. Or for at least for the next 24 hours, I will not take advantage of people by lying or whatever. So that means that there's much more likelihood of us being able to actually keep that resolve. I'll just quote a little bit of what Lama Yeshe says about the importance of resolve. He says, you have great determination never to create any negative action again. Something very complete about this. It comes from strong and firm wisdom. Within you, there's a subtle energy that protects you from moral fall. It's not just intellectually motivated decision. It's a force that totally counteracts the old habits. Realization that instinctively protects you. When fully developed, it offers perfect protection. Okay, so just there's a note at the end of the notes about signs of purification. If one engages in a strong purification practice, could be doing a Vajrasattva retreat, Nungne, reciting mantra or making offerings, then if it's success, one of the signs of success is having very auspicious dreams. This is actually mentioned in the readings. I think it might have been Lama Zopa's teaching in the readings, page 39, where there's some interesting signs, seeing the sun or moon rising, seeing monks or nuns, just dreaming, having monks or nuns in your dreams, climbing mountains, riding horses and elephants. So these signs that may or may not happen if you're doing purification practices. So just maybe still on karma, but just before we do the meditation on the 10 non-virtues, I think it was in some of the transcript by Renata, she talked about group karma and individual karma. So apart from us as individuals being able to accumulate both positive and negative karma, there is such a thing as group karma, like a whole group of people, could be a whole country or whatever. That sometimes would explain the karma for a particular country to be very subject to war, areas of the world, particularly around Africa, where they're subject to droughts, starvation, shortage of food, and so on. So it said that the karma of a particular place can be gathered by a group of people, so we can have group karma. So for me, I think of some examples like some countries that have unbelievable wealth, such as I used to live in the United Arab Emirates, Abu Dhabi, in the Gulf region, for a short time I was there, and the people there have just unimaginable wealth due to the oil. And this only happened in the last, say, 50 or 60 years. Before that, the Bedouins who lived there were desert dwellers living with camels, extremely harsh existence. Originally, one of the industries was the pearling industry, which collapsed when artificial pearls were discovered or developed. And then just almost overnight, the country discovered masses of oil in the 60s, 70s, and became one of the richest countries in the world. So I was there for a short time teaching, and everybody in my class, who were all young students, were multimillionaires. They all had unbelievable amount of wealth. In the Emirates, it's a lucky country because due to the political situation, which is run in a very fair way, it's not democracy, but they use a very traditional way of sheikhs. Sheikhs are the tribal leader, and the wealth is given to every Emirati. When they're born, is given a certain amount of the oil wealth, and when they get married, they're given even more. And so most of my male students, had several expensive cars, a couple of houses, maybe an office block, and the females also are responsible for looking after the wealth of the family. So the females traditionally are the what would you call them, the accountants or the cashiers who actually look after the wealth, and so they have a lot of power in that sense as well. So there was this. We're sort of very affluent and wealthy in Australia comparative to the rest of the world, but it was a completely an eye-opener for me of a part of the world where there's unimaginable wealth. So I'd have to, group karma, to me, helps explain that. These people as a group had the karma to be poor, and then as a group, they had the karma to receive incredible wealth via the discovery of oil. Often, this is just a sideline, but our attitude to refugees in Australia, like if we keep electing governments that are cruel and very, very hostile to refugees, and treat them extremely badly as that we have, then for me, I can, just my own interpretation, that could be the cause of developing negative group karma for that population, and could be experiencing some sort of, not necessarily in this life, but further down the track, negative outcome. All right, so that's enough chit-chat, and so the practice we're doing is in your notes. It's on page 42 of the transcript, Renata's transcript. It's a practice that I'm leading for the first time. I actually have not led this particular meditation before, but it's a very powerful one. And what it's intended to do is to remind us that we have accumulated a lot of negative karma over our lifetime and previous lifetimes, and how important it is to purify. But at the same time, the meditation covers positive things we've done. Okay, so protecting life, not killing, and rejoicing and feeling that we have actually, as well as committed extensive negative karmas, we have the seeds of being able to create positive karmas, the seeds of compassion, the seeds of patience, the seeds of wisdom, understanding the nature of things. So it's, if the actual practice, which is written by Yeshikadra, a very senior nun in the FPMT organization, is quite extensive, and so because we've only got maybe about 15 minutes, I'll just shorten it. And what we do is we just focus on each of the non-virtues of body, each one of them, and just think possibly having committed them in this life. Maybe we may not have committed murder in this life, but we might have killed either intentionally or unintentionally animals and so on. Then we also look at the opposite of the non-virtual. So we've actually protected life. We might have saved lives. We might have rescued animals, whatever. We might have say work in the caring health industry, where we're protecting people from illness. Good examples, with the COVID. So many people who are doing that. And then we go through the non-virtues of speech and the virtues and the non-virtues of mind. So I probably won't cover all the individual ones, but we'll touch on them. And so we just spend a moment thinking of how those actions, the power of those actions, how because karma increases over time, has that tendency, compounding interest, how for the negative actions, we need to actually purify them, to stop them compounding and to stop their fruition, purifying before they come to fruition. Okay, so just get comfortable, just in the same sort of sitting, lying down position that we used for the mindfulness practice, breathing meditation, and we'll just go through the practice. Okay. So, just coming into the breath for a few moments. Calming your mind. So just bring to mind the purpose of meditation. Meditation on the 10 non-virtues is to recognize non-virtuous actions that we've created in this and previous lives, and to develop an urgent wish to purify these negative actions. As we contemplate the negative actions, contemplate also the suffering results that could happen, and then contemplate the remedies, the purification steps, purification of regret, resolve not to repeat, and taking refuge and generating compassion. So first we begin non-virtues of body, and these are killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, focusing first on the non-virtue of killing, not just taking human life, but it's taking animal life, insects life. Possibly we have taken the lives of animals or insects, contemplating why, what motivated us, anger, or attachment, or was it just ignorance? knowing that killing is generally a negative action, causing us to be born in the lower realm, suffering realm, or to experience illness or short life, and possibly born in a place where our life is in danger. Generate regret at the actions we've done, killing, taking refuge in the Buddha Dharma Sangha, and feeling compassion for all beings, including those we've killed, developing strong determination not to repeat this action, perhaps for a specific time that's achievable. And staying with that, recognizing the wrong action, regretting, taking refuge, generating compassion, and determined not to repeat the action. Second, non-virtue body is stealing, taking possessions of others without permission. Recalling any actions we might have done like this, taking what's not freely given, recalling why we did this. Were we motivated by greed, or anger, attachment, or ignorance? Thinking of the consequences of stealing others' possessions, which could be born in a suffering place without food or drink. Also, another consequence is to have our possessions stolen, and also living in a country or place where our possessions are in danger of being stolen or destroyed. Generating thoughts of refuge and compassion, wanting to become an enlightened being for the benefit of others, and regretting our actions of stealing others' possessions, resolving not to do it again, not to repeat this action in an achievable time, 1 month, or the rest of your life. Then briefly recalling our virtuous actions of body, where we've avoided killing, we've rescued animals, we've worked to protect others from disease, to work with the sick, provided food and protection to beings. Or we've, instead of stealing, we've actually given generously to others, to practice generosity. And the results of these actions will be positive for us. Having long life, healthy life, having many possessions, being in a safe place, and rejoice in our good fortune, our merit, practicing virtuous actions of body. Now, non-virtuous actions of speech, what we do with our voice and our speech, recalling actions of lying we've done, deceiving others through our speech. The karmic effect of lying can be not to be believed by others. Could also be born in the animal realm, and to be born in a place that is very dirty and unclean. Now that non-virtuous action of speech is slandering, defaming other people, divisive speech, these consequences of divisive speech or slandering is to be separated from loved ones. Another negative action of speech is harsh speech, using a tone of voice that is hurting other people, or words that hurt other people. Karmic result could be to be born in a suffering place, to hear just words against us that hurt us, or to live in a very dry, harsh place like a desert. Now generate the 4 powerful remedies to purify the actions of speech, non-virtuous actions of speech, taking refuge in Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, generating the wish to become enlightened for all sentient beings, regretting our actions, and having strong determination not to repeat this kind of action again. Now, realizing too that we've created virtuous actions of speech, where we've told the truth, avoided lying, said kind words to others, avoided gossiping. The dark karmic consequences of this is positive. Rejoice in the good works we've done in protecting our actions of voice, of speech, not harming others by speech, benefiting others by speech. Now, non-virtuous actions of mind. These include covetousness and jealousy, desiring to have the possessions of other beings, feeling jealous of other people's success, their material wealth, and so on. Thinking of the consequences of this non-virtuous action of mind. It can include being dissatisfied with what we've got, failing in our worldly success in our business ventures, living in a very isolated place. Also, another negative action of mind is bad thoughts, hateful thoughts to others, malice, wanting them to be harmed. Such negative actions of mind can cause us to become hateful in our mental state, not finding good food to eat. Another wrong action of mind is wrong views, holding wrong views as the opposite to the truth, such as denying the existence of cause and effect, the workings of karma, thinking that these negative actions are causing us to be increasingly ignorant, such as being born in the animal realm, which is pervaded by ignorance. Now generating powerful remedies to purify these non-virtual action of mind, taking refuge in Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, generating compassion, the wish to lead other beings out of suffering to enlightenment, regretting strongly negative actions of mind, and determining strongly not to repeat this kind of action again. We can rejoice in our positive actions of mind that we've practiced, such as rejoicing in other people's success, generation of compassion and loving kindness, thought to benefit others, and generating wisdom, understanding the nature of reality. All these virtuous action of mind will lead to positive results. Rejoice in our merit, having these seeds of virtue on our mind stream. Finally, we conclude by using these 10 non-virtues as a guide, generate the strong thought to avoid such non-virtue in future, purify the non-virtues already created, and quickly and as quickly as possible. Holding that thought, avoiding as much as possible non-virtuous actions of body, speech and mind, and purify the negative imprints of our negative actions as quickly as possible. Now we just dedicate the merit from doing this meditation. May this action become the cause for enlightenment, so that we can become fully enlightened beings and lead other beings into their enlightened state as quickly as possible. And just to conclude, we recite Lama Zopa's special dedication for the pandemic. However many sick sentient beings there are, may they quickly be freed from all sickness. May all sickness without exception of all transmigrating beings never occur again. May the Buddha Dharma last for a long time, and may sentient beings in this world meet the Buddha Dharma and achieve enlightenment as quickly as possible, dedicating to that. Well, that's it for this week. So thanks so much for being there. Great to see some people there, and have a great week. And I look forward to seeing you same time next week for our last class on all about karma. So stay well and see you next week.